So last week we opened up Season 6, and it still kind of blows my mind that we're saying Season 6 because it's been a very long time making these videos of Why I Want. And I got some tweets, got some messages, got some comments as well saying that for the next episode, or not for the next episode specifically, but for whenever this episode would come out, there was a very specific headshot that y'all wanted me to put in the thumbnail. Well, I'm very happy to announce that with today's second episode of Season 6 of Why I Want here on the LEGO Rocks 99 YouTube channel, we are indeed taking a look at Brayden Tanev's clone, a guy who started out the year somewhat in that top 3-ish conversation, maybe top 4 depending on who you would ask, and who has kind of catapulted himself to being a top 3 lock, if not, maybe even a challenger for first. Let's head over to the NCAA and talk about the Michigan Wolverines superstar of a player who is already one of the best NCAA point scorers right now, who is already such an impact game-changing player, and he's only 18. Let's talk today about 6'2", 187-pound center Adam Fantilli out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Now, as we had said, back when he was a member of the Steel, he did have this very funny headshot that looked like Brayden Tanev when he saw the Ghost, but funny pictures aside, Adam Fantilli is a guy that has really propelled himself into that conversation of being arguably the best NCAA draftee since Jack Eichel, if not better than Jack Eichel, spanning back to one of the best NCAA players of all time in Paul Kariya, who was drafted back in the 90s. Fantilli, as we had said, is a big center, 6'2", 187, left-handed shot, and if you take a look at the consolidated ranking on Elite Prospects, he is an average second overall pick. Now, sort through the different lists and you'll find different outlets having him at second, others having him at third. The top 3 conversation on most of these lists goes Bedard, Fantilli, and Michkov, but with Matvei Michkov sort of transferring in the KHL, VHL time, etc., etc. It's been a very weird development path for him so far, and we're going to be talking about that when we make the Why I Want video about him. But going back to Adam Fantilli, this season for the Michigan Wolverines as a freshman, the guy has 26 points in 16 games played, 11 goals, 15 assists, and this actually is a little bit of a decline from the production he had earlier in the season. Now, 26 points in 16 games obviously is fantastic, but earlier on in the year, he was a 2-point-per-game player on the dot, and he was first in the NCAA in points, and everybody was getting super hyped up because Fantilli was doing things that we hadn't seen in the NCAA in a very, very long time. Unfortunately, he did indeed slow down his production. He had 11 points in his most recent 10 games played, which is kind of funny when you consider that as a decline because that's still a point-per-game metric in a men's league as an 18-year-old. So even in a state of regression, is Adam Fantilli still producing at a very tremendous rate for a draft-eligible guy. Right now in the NCAA, you take a look at the overall standings, Fantilli is third overall in the league with his 26-point marker. And just to articulate my point, Ryan McAllister, undrafted guy, 21-year-old forward. You also see some other players in the NCAA in their early 20s, late teens. You got the Riz God at 5th overall, Massimo Rizzo, who is a Carolina Hurricanes prospect there too. He was drafted a while ago. So Adam Fantilli producing at this rate with guys in this age range, it's pretty unheard of for guys who are this young heading into the NHL draft. Plus the fact that Fantilli is currently third overall in the NCAA in points per game, just behind the same Ryan McAllister and Sean Farrell. It's a very impressive statistical profile. Now, the thing is with Fantilli, he's not going to be producing too many points in the upcoming few weeks because he's actually off to Team Canada at the World Juniors, so of course. But either way, Fantilli is a very productive prospect, one that kind of transcends what we're used to seeing out of NCAA guys. But you already knew that, right? We've already made a few videos going over Fantilli himself specifically, Connor Bedard, the 2023 draft, and how good everything is supposed to be, but what exactly is it about Adam Fantilli that makes him such a great prospect? Well, there are so many videos online of scouting reports and highlights of his individual play. The one that I liked a lot from last year was published by Elite Prospects. I believe it was made by Mitch Brown, but pretty much it goes over what Fantilli is able to do in the offensive zone that makes him so effective and how he progresses play forward in his own zone as well. Long story short, Fantilli's shot is absolutely bananas. He can get it off on both feet, the way he's able to fool goalies by keeping his stick blade down before pulling the shot off. He's got so many NHL quality habits in the way he's able to lock and load that he's able to beat goalies in a variety of ways. Quick shot with his stride on the inside foot, quick shot on the outside foot, receiving a pass, caressing the puck before ripping it on goal. He can score in a variety of ways, and the way he reads the game too helps him out tremendously as well. He's able to read plays as they develop, his anticipation skills are very top class, and as a result, when you combine that with his really good puck skills and passing ability, it makes for a very diversified offensive toolset in the zone. Plus the fact that because he's 6'2" and 180 pounds, he's gotten into the habit, especially in his junior days, of being an absolute wrecking ball out there too. Adam Fantilli has a physical edge that guys like Connor Bedard and Matvei Michkov just unfortunately don't have. Now, Bedard, Michkov, they're both kind of smaller than Fantilli is, so it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it adds a lot when you're able to score a boatload of points like Fantilli does, score a lot of goals, and also be a physical presence too. Let's head over onto mynhldraft.com and read what different scouting outlets throughout the year have said. Scott Wheeler on The Athletic earlier last month said that even though Fantilli is 6'2" and about 200 pounds, he might be the best skater in this draft. It's not often we see players his size who can move like him. His skating is balanced. Evan Pace of Dauber said on October 20th, he's perhaps the most physically gifted player in the class, with his combination of size and mobility. He possesses a dynamic offensive skill set, and he pairs a strong two-way game with elite production. We're skipping Sam Constantino's because his scouting reports never tell the reader what the player is actually like. Steven from Daily Faceoff says that he has the physical maturity and the smarts to take control in the NCAA, and he's going to ease the pain of losing on Bedard for whoever snags him in the draft. Peter Baracchini of The Hockey Writer said that Fantilli is a highly skilled and smart centerman. He's extremely deceiving with his movements and has the ability to play at a fast rate, controlling the pace of the game. And then you have Bob McKenzie, who said that at almost 6'2", Fantilli is a talented big man in the middle who is both skillful and competitive. He's an excellent skater who drives play, competes hard, does a lot of heavy lifting in the hard areas of the ice, and is not without well above average offensive skills. Adam Fantilli, if everything pans out, could be a premier power forward in the National Hockey League. That was the title of the video, the Elite Prospect Scouting Report, that in which I'll leave a link to in the description. And what I also wanted to talk about, and I'll leave a link to this as well, was this interview done on ESPN with Adam Fantilli regarding the Bedard-Fantilli matchup. It was written by Greg Wyshynski, published earlier yesterday, and Fantilli talks about a comment that he made that was kind of taken out of context. Now, this is setting up the scoop here. In a TSN interview last summer, Fantilli was asked if he could challenge Bedard's status as the 2023 top prospect, and he said, yeah, absolutely. I feel like I can be a contender for anybody in this draft. Unfortunately, though, the TSN crew gave out a headline saying that Fantilli absolutely feels he can challenge Bedard. Several months and several draft rankings later, Fantilli says he doesn't believe his comments were framed correctly. That's not what was said. They asked me if I felt I could compete with anybody in the draft, and I said absolutely. Not necessarily that he could be, quote-unquote, better than Bedard. I do my best to push Connor, and I know he pushes me, so it's a good relationship. Obviously, he's talking about being at the World Juniors with Connor because they're both going to be suiting up for Team Canada soon. It's going to be very nice to see that, by the way. And the rest of this article goes over a few more comments that Fantilli has regarding his profile for the draft, what's it like playing with Connor and everything. It's nice to read that the kids have some camaraderie there. But just to really drive the point home as to how this draft dynamic is working between Bedard and Fantilli, the CHL kid versus the NCAA kid, the smaller, maybe a little bit quicker and more skilled forward in Bedard versus the behemoth of a man that is Adam Fantilli, who also has some really good skills and puck abilities himself. This is Craig Button's sentiment in the same ESPN article. I think it's 2015 all over again. That's the year another Connor McDavid, inspired teams to do whatever it took to increase their lottery odds to select him. The Oilers drafted him first ahead of Jack Eichel, who went to the Sabres. As good as Jack Eichel is, he's not in that next class of player like McDavid, Button said. And as good as Fantilli is, I think Bedard changes the fortunes of a franchise. Now, unfortunately, I would tend to go out there and say that Fantilli could probably do the same. I mean, take a look at Jack Eichel and how good he has been. At his best, he's a 100-point player. If Fantilli pans out to what he could be, I feel like he could also be that too. It's just, you know, Connor Bedard is Connor Bedard. So, at the end of the day, when it comes to first overall, I feel like it's Bedard's spot to lose, but second overall projected pick Adam Fantilli should not be seen in any respect as a consolation prize. This is a first overall caliber guy in most drafts, and he could be yours for the very low price of losing out on a first overall draft lottery. Talk to the comments your thoughts about Adam Fantilli and the way he has performed so far in the NCAA. Where do you think he's going to go in the NHL, and how good do you think he's going to be? I hope you enjoyed this video, Trolls 99, and bye.